According to Val Nek, a High Commander with the Galactic Federation of Worlds, we have entered the final countdown in an epic behind-the-scenes war taking place in remote underground facilities scattered throughout the US and the rest of the planet. His latest update, relayed through his contactee Megan Rose, gives many details on coordinated military campaigns conducted by special forces belonging to an Earth alliance working alongside their peers from the Galactic Federation, aiming to remove the last remnants of a deep state extraterrestrial alliance ensconced in multiple underground facilities. On October 14, Megan relayed the following update from Val Nek. Val Nek, the end of the war is near. The Federation and the Earth Alliance have made ample preparation for the communication systems on Terra to be completely secure. The radio frequencies, which were hacked by the Orion Greys, three-letter agencies, and the Dark Fleet, are now in the hands of the Earth Alliance. As I spoke previously, the Earth Alliance has been fighting alongside the Federation to take back the planet. The last part of this war, the final countdown, is the War Underground. The War Underground is one of the bloodiest and most horrific wars we have ever fought. I am sure that the Terran military can also say the same." End quote. What Val Nek describes here is not unlike the final months of World War II, when Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan fought to the bitter end. This served a dual purpose: to spite the Allied powers by destroying vital civilian infrastructure necessary for national rebuilding, and also to give time for personnel and resources to be diverted to underground bases in Antarctica and South America for the creation of a secret space program, the Dark Fleet, also known as the Nachtwaffen, that was formerly allied with the Draconian Empire. Today we are witnessing similar ferocious battles, this time taking place in the deep underground military bases in the US and elsewhere around the planet, as the Earth Alliance moves against the Deep State and their Orion Grey allies, after succeeding in a similar cleanup effort in Antarctica, as described in previous articles. Val Nek's reference to a final countdown indicates that time is short for the Deep State and its alien allies as their strategic situation collapses in the underground war. While the war's outcome may be clear, it can be predicted that the Deep State, like the Nazis before them, is prolonging the war to destroy lives and infrastructure in an act of malice, while taking the opportunity to relocate whatever personnel and resources it can away from the battlefields to remaining safe locations, whether on Earth, our solar system, or elsewhere in the galaxy. Val Nek continued his update by describing how Earth Alliance soldiers wounded in the ferocious underground battles are being healed. Quote, "In previous reports, I've said that these soldiers are finding refuge in healing technologies available on Lunar Operations Command, soon to be expanded into a fully functional, state-of-the-art facility with higher density technologies, as outlined in the Jupiter Agreements. While I cannot speak for the Earth Alliance, I can report that the Federation's duties in regards to cleaning and clearing underground bases is now complete. This is excellent news." End quote. In a previous report, Val Nek reported how Lunar Operations Command was being repurposed as a medical facility where Galactic Federation healing science and technology were being introduced to the Earth Alliance. Major companies were involved in mass production of these advanced healing technologies for eventual release to humanity. Importantly, in a previous article, I cited JP, a serving member of the US Army who I have known since 2008, who revealed that he and Army colleagues were being sent to the moon to build new facilities for a multinational alliance working with Nordic extraterrestrials. This was important corroboration for what Val Nek has previously asserted, and makes it plausible that wounded Special Forces personnel are being taken to the moon for healing. Val Nek's update next discussed two important US bases where underground fighting was occurring. Quote, "There are two bases that were the last of our concerns, the Dulce Base, and Area 51. As Commander Iridian previously reported, Orion Greys were captured and we were able to identify their energy frequency, their genetic encoding that connected their consciousness. I can confirm that this code indeed was hacked and soon all communication systems in Terra will be secure. There are no more extraterrestrial threats to Terra in that respect at this time. The Alliance has the job of recovering the servers, changing the frequency of the servers and replacing the satellite communications. They have everything they need. They have the technology. We move forward with the liberation of planet Terra." End quote. Val Nek was here referring to a previous report from Thorhan Iridian, another Galactic Federation commander, that was relayed by Elena Danan, which discussed the capture of 9 Orion Grey extraterrestrials. Again, there was independent corroboration for such a claim, which came from another contactee, Alex Collier, who described what he had learned from the Andromeda Council about the capture of a group of Orion Greys. I asked Val Nek a series of questions about his update, which Megan kindly relayed to him, and I received the following answers. Question 1. You described the battles at these underground bases as being particularly ferocious. Can you share any details about these battles in terms of weapons used, personnel, and their locations? Val Nek: Yes, I can speak on behalf of Federation personnel who fought alongside the Earth Alliance. It is important to note that it is the Federation's duty to remove extraterrestrial presence in these areas. In the interest of training the Terran military, human soldiers also fought alongside to eliminate some of the areas with the Federation. These human soldiers have never seen such horrors, most of them, and they deserve our greatest respect. The weapons that were used to dismantle the malevolent extraterrestrial presence in these areas are common to the Federation and will be manufactured for the Earth Alliance to use in the future. They are best described to you as laser guns. They emit a high-frequency laser that demagnetizes the atomic bonds of a structure or person, inflicting trauma and death. These devices are relatively simple and are effective in 4th and 5th density, where most of these beings reside. Most of these human soldiers are unable to see at 4D or 5D effectively with the naked eye. They have special supersuits with helmets for viewing. This is not technology from the Federation, rather something that was previously developed in their space programs, but nonetheless effective. Our military strategy was this: isolate a section of the base and attack. This was done in a manner to preserve the most life, as these beings and corrupt military officials hold hostage humans and other beings for experimentation." End quote. I first heard of super soldier suits worn by secret space program personnel back in 2014 from Randy Kramer, who says that he served in a 20-back program from 1987 to 2007. He described how he was trained to battle against indigenous extraterrestrial species on Mars on behalf of a corporate-run secret space program that US Marines were secretly recruited to protect. Kramer's testimony was backed by a former US Marine Corps serviceman and Washington State Trooper, Michael Gerloff, who provided extensive documentation of his claims that US Marines were being recruited during boot camp for a secret space program. Ironically, the Galactic Federation secretly armed the indigenous Martians to fight against the Dark Fleet and Corporate Alliance, thereby liberating their planet. Later, Val Nek gave additional information in response to Question 1. Question 1. Val Nek: I would like to add that the Dulce Base and Area 51 were the last to be cleared due to high-ranking Grey residents from the Orion Group. These beings carried a master frequency that was necessary to hack their consciousness and the internet systems of Terra. Area 51 for a long time has been used as a base by the Kili Tolkert, or Tall Whites specifically, and officials of the corrupt Terran government. These beings, I can report, a small number of them were also captured for a similar purpose. The Kili Tolkert have connections to the Terran government. The Kili Tolkert for a very long time have offered certain services to Terran governments, which I will not disclose, but it is part of the extraterrestrial infiltration. I can report that this information is recovered and we are working diligently alongside the Alliance." End quote. We have extensive information about the tall whites, also known as Kili Tokut, thanks to the insider revelations of Dr. Charles Hall, who served for nearly 3 years as a weatherman for the US Air Force at Nellis Air Force Base in the mid-1960s. He wrote a 5-volume series of books titled Millennial Hospitality, where he described the agreements between the US Air Force and the tall whites dating back to the 1950s, and how each provided services to the other, including an underground facility at Indian Springs out of which the tall whites could operate. Significantly, corroboration for Hall's remarkable claim came in the form of a Nevada news story describing funds earmarked for the construction of a large underground facility at Indian Springs at the time of the agreements, which has never been officially disclosed. Val Nek's claim that several tall whites were captured as a result of underground battles at Area 51 is consistent with Dr. Hall's information about them having a major base there. I next asked Val Nek about a secret base in my home country of Australia. Question 2. Was Pine Gap, Australia among the underground facilities where battles were fought? If so, what can you share about this facility and any battles that took place there? Val Nek, I'm not at liberty to disclose operations in Australia, although I can confirm that the war underground has been won and extraterrestrials have either fled or been removed by force from the planet." End quote. This is indeed good news, since Pine Gap has long been regarded, alongside Dulce, New Mexico, as a place where some of the most egregious human rights abuses were taking place against captive civilians used in genetic experiments. I next asked Val Nek about the infamous 1979 Dulce incident. Question 3. You described Dulce Base as being among the last to be cleared. How does the ongoing battle there compare to a reported 1979 firefight incident between US Army Delta Forces and Orion Greys? Val Nek, the Dulce Base was the hub of the Orion Grey network. The underground facility there is many miles deep, with access to tunnels all over the country of the United States. I am not aware of the specific incident you are referring to. However, I can report that this species of greys die quickly and very easily. This was not our goal, however. Our goal was first to capture them and find the key to their hive consciousness. This was successfully done by the Federation. The rest of the base and the beings inhabiting it were eliminated by the Federation using our weapons as described above. The human hostages were removed and cared for by the Earth Alliance in facilities they have set up for medical purposes. The human, hybrid or hostage extraterrestrial species were cared for by the Federation as they contain genomes that are unknown to medical personnel of the Alliance. However, you may find interesting that your Terran military will be trained in the genetics of these species should it become necessary in the future." End quote. Back in 2003, I wrote an extensive report on multiple insider testimonies about events at Dulce and the infamous firefight that occurred there. The report is available on my website. Question 4. There are rumours that the deep state is making its last stand in Australia and Hawaii. Is there any truth to such rumours? Val Nek, I cannot comment in the interest of Megan's safety on this question. End quote. This is a very telling response. Australia is adopting some of the most draconian police actions in the Western world against protesters to enforce official government health policies. As far as Hawaii is concerned, at the time of writing, my wife and I are leaving the Big Island after 17 years residence, since the signs are very foreboding for those that choose not to comply with the increasingly draconian policies here. It's very plausible that the deep state and its extraterrestrial allies is indeed making its last stand in these two idyllic Pacific locations. My next question concerned weapons of mass destruction possessed by the deep state. Question 5. There have been claims that the deep state threatened to use portable nuclear weapons and other exotic weapons such as scalar, torsion, toplet and strangelet bombs if its existence were threatened. Have such weapon systems been located and neutralized? Val Nek, oh yes, I am happy to report on this. Nuclear weapons are easily dismantled using technology from the Federation. This technology was offered to governments of your people in the 1950s, but declined. I can now report that this technology is in the hands of the Earth Alliance and they have graciously accepted our viewpoint of nuclear weapons. Our viewpoint is this. These are weapons of mass destruction for all involved and will not be beneficial for planet Terra. This technology to dismantle nuclear weapons uses magnetic frequency. The magnetic force is made from elements that are not known to planet Terra. It is rather simple when you think of a bomb as a simple chemical reaction. How to reverse a chemical reaction using elements is simple technology. It's very true that nuclear weapons technology has long been a great concern to the Galactic Federation, which has raised the proliferation of these weapon systems as an important feature of the historical diplomatic context with different US and Soviet administrations. Elena Danan's latest book, We Will Never Let You Down, which I highly recommend, discusses these historical negotiations in great detail. In addition, I recommend viewing a recent press conference involving former US Air Force officers revealing how UFOs interfered with nuclear missiles, effectively neutralizing them for unspecified periods. This directly corroborates Val Nek's comments about Federation technologies that can neutralize such dangerous weapon systems. Question 6. You mentioned the Earth Alliance is replacing compromised satellite communication systems. Is Elon Musk's Starlink the chief means for a new uncompromised system? Val Nek, yes, the satellites I am referring to are satellites on the ground. These satellites will be replaced with satellites in the orbit of Terra, in the sky. Starlink is not the correct name for this system. It is something else. I will not disclose, but you are welcome to speculate. It uses similar technology to the satellite system you call Starlink. Megan, Val Nek says, very close but no cigar to above. Val Nek's response is again very telling. Something like Starlink has been prepared and is about to officially launch. My speculation is that Val Nek is alluding to the Space Fence, which is formally under the control of US Space Command. This new communication system will be certainly run by US Space Command and the multinational space alliance it has formed as a result of the Jupiter Accords, which have been discussed in previous articles. Importantly, General James Dickinson, the head of Space Command, confirmed in August that over 100 agreements have been reached with different national space agencies, military commands, and aerospace corporations, making it feasible that such a satellite communication system has been secretly prepared and is close to being launched. My final question to Val Nek was the following. Question 7. If hacked radio frequencies and communication systems previously used to stifle dissent and public awakening are now in the hands of the Earth Alliance, how long do we have to wait before we see signs of social media and mass media putting out genuine information on what is happening around our planet? Val Nek, I cannot completely answer this question because it involves private Terran companies and it is out of the hands of the Federation. I can disclose that the Earth Alliance has been given the technology and the tools to create an internet system that is beneficial. The time frame I cannot disclose, but will not take long. It is an active operation, please understand. End quote. It is significant that Val Nek has relayed this just after President Donald Trump announced the launch of a new social media company, Truth Social. As I've discussed previously, according to Professor Haim Eshed, the father of Israel's space program, Trump has been working with the Galactic Federation to disclose its existence to humanity. Therefore, it would not be a great surprise that Trump is playing a crucial behind-the-scenes role in creating a new internet system. In conclusion, there is much to welcome in Val Nek's most recent report, his revelation that humanity has entered the final countdown to the impending defeat of the Deep State, Orion Grey, Draconian and Dark Fleet Alliance is most welcome news. While more ferocious battles lie ahead, the secret underground war has entered a decisive phase and we may not have to wait too long to see the results and the unveiling of a Star Trek future. This has been Dr. Michael Salla with Exopolitics Today. I wish to thank Megan Rose for forwarding Val Nek's update and his answers to my questions. I highly recommend subscribing to Megan's YouTube channel. Finally, if you want to learn more about different galactic federations and councils and how these work with multiple national space programs, I recommend my latest webinar, which is now available on Vimeo.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Subscribe, like, and share. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.